Okay, well, welcome to the Impact Sales Tribe VIP call today. And today we're going to be peeling back another layer of something that we cover in our Impact Sales Mastery course, but we don't go into it to this degree in ISM. There's so much material in Impact Sales Mastery. We reference some of the things we're going to talk about today, but today we're going to dig into this a lot deeper. And it's going to be the topic of what I call the hierarchy of influence. Now, some people may define this hierarchy differently. They may call it something different. They may have the order set differently than what I do. But I like to call this the hierarchy of influence. So when you're out there and you're promoting a product, a service, or an offering to people, you always have to ask yourself one simple question. And that question is this: how do my prospects perceive me? How do they look at me? How do they rate me? Where do I fall in their personal hierarchy of influence? So it's important to start with understanding that the hierarchy of influence is not how you look at yourself or how you think you position yourself or how you feel about yourself. It's truly how your prospects and clients view you, what bucket they put you in, what category they place you in. When they think of you, where do they put you? Now, this topic can create some thoughts from people. Sometimes it can create some concerns, questions. Sometimes it makes people question certain aspects to how their prospects and clients view them. But I want you to keep in mind that paragraph, that this scale, this hierarchy is all about how they view you. And it's so important to keep that in mind, because no amount of how we view ourselves will influence how other people actually view us. And if you really want to be the most effective in selling, if you really want to understand where you stand at any given time better, you really need to understand the hierarchy of influence. If you have an overinflated sense of yourself in how you think you're perceived by your prospects and clients, it will alter how you approach things. Just like if you think down a little bit about where you may stand, it may alter how you interact and how you work with your prospects and clients. So having a really good understanding of the hierarchy of influence is really, really critical. It puts you in a position to be able to understand the landscape of things a lot better. It enables you to make better decisions as it relates to the sales process. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. And it also gives you the ability of really understanding where you stand at any given time and kind of what you need to aspire to, kind of what direction you need to go. Now, I want to start this with a little bit of a disclaimer. Many people have their own definitions of what this hierarchy may look like and how, one category might be called one thing versus another. I'm only sharing with you how I define it. Other people may define it differently, but I am going to define it in a very clear and easy to understand way so people can take this and make this information actionable and actually use it to their advantage. So the hierarchy of influence really has multiple tiers, okay? And those tiers start off where everybody kind of starts in this situation, which is, in tier one. And what I call tier one is vendor status or provider status. Like, you haven't really developed a great relationship yet with your prospect or client. You're considered a vendor or a service provider to them. It's really not a close-knit relationship. You haven't gone as far as you maybe could have gone in certain aspects. They just look at you as somebody that fills a void, takes care of a need. You're a vendor. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a vendor. There's nothing wrong with being a service provider. But you have to understand that relationships are forged and maintained, and great business is done when you enhance the depth of the relationship that you have with people. It's not that you can't be successful being a vendor or a provider, but the fact is, if you really want to get more out of those relationships and you want to do more business and you want to have happy clients that are happy with you, you need to aspire to get out of tier one and be more than just a vendor or a service provider. And real quick, before we go on from this one, we want to kind of explain the reasons why. Number one, vendors, service providers are in many ways, and this is through how your prospects or clients look at you, are replaceable. Okay. They're expendable. There's somebody that can be replaced. One vendor falls out, a new vendor gets added in. There's somebody that's easily replaced. And that's never a place that you want to be as somebody who is working with a prospect or a client. You don't want to be perceived as replaceable. You want to be perceived as irreplaceable. You don't want to be expendable in their eyes. So tier one is the first level. It's kind of where everybody might start out unless you come in a different way. So that's what tier one is. Now, tier two is when you are perceived, and this is not necessarily by title, but obviously this is more in the perception that you're a partner with them. Your relationship is based on more of a partnership, a collaboration, a free exchange. There's a really good relationship dynamic going on, and that relationship is perceived as an informal partnership. You're working together to accomplish things. You're putting your heads together to make more out of the business. You're doing things in a way that is perceived as a partnership. Now, the reason why partnership, being a partner, is more powerful than being a vendor or a service provider, is kind of self-explanatory, but it's much harder to replace somebody that's perceived as a partner versus somebody that's perceived as a vendor or a service provider. So being a partner and advancing to that level in the hierarchy is the next level up. It's much easier to do business when they perceive you as a collaborative partner. In some ways, almost a colleague in the quest to accomplish whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. Now, that is obviously a big step forward compared to being a vendor or a service provider. It's all about how they view you. Now, what comes after being a partner is where things start to become more defined and more crystal clear. Tier three, and again, you may dispute the order of these things because maybe you can't get to a certain place with a prospect unless you are already an expert. But tier three, in the way I define it, is you are a subject matter expert. You're the go-to person that they rely on in that particular category. You're the person that they go to for expertise in that particular arena or field or offering or whatever it is. So you could be a partner with somebody and not necessarily be a subject matter expert, not be an expert in what it is that you do. But this idea of being perceived by your clients, by your prospects as a subject matter expert is that next level up in the hierarchy. There's expertise that's involved that gives you a higher perceived value in the eyes of your prospects and clients. They wouldn't want to possibly lose access to that expertise. So as a result, you are deemed more valuable in the hierarchy of influence. Okay. You're somebody who is worth more because of your expertise in that particular subject matter. Now, all of these things build to the final two stages. And the next level up, which is one that we talk a lot about in ISM, and this is kind of what we focus on in Impact Sales Mastery, it's all about wanting to position yourself as that trusted advisor to your prospects or clients, right? Getting to that stage where you're perceived as the expert. You're also the person whose advice they take over other people's advice, as well as, and this is the way I like to define this trusted advisor stage, because I think it's really, really important. They look at you as the person that has a seat at their table as it relates to anything in your particular category. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So one example is there's a lot of businesses that I work with the sales activist as a consultant. And, I'm brought in on a project basis sometimes. Sometimes I'm brought in to do some coaching for some team members. Many times I'm just brought in on particular issues that need to be addressed. Well, I'm perceived by those clients as a trusted advisor. When I would communicate with them about something sales specific, something related to sales, whether it's an operational issue, whether it's a tactical issue, whether it's a strategic issue, I'm their trusted advisor. They would come to me before they would go outside to get information about this particular area of expertise, right? I've earned that right. We've done enough business. We've done enough things together that they know that they're going to get good counsel from me. And as a result, I'm perceived as their trusted advisor. I'm also somebody who, for lack of a better way of putting it, would be perceived as being in the inner circle of their business as it relates to those things. Not every aspect of their business, but that particular area. And that's a really, really good place to be. Now, you can also be a trusted advisor and not have that access to the inner circle. You could become somebody who advises a business or a prospect or a client on certain things, even a little outside of your area of expertise, if you've earned the right, if you've positioned yourself as somebody whose counsel and guidance is valuable. And this is another example, not necessarily just sales related, but there are other people that I work with for a variety of different things that come to me on specific leadership issues simply because they know I have some experience in leading large teams. And I've earned that right as a trusted advisor for them to be comfortable to pick my brain on those issues simply because something in our work experience has created that trust, that bond has been established. So tier 4 in the hierarchy is you've achieved what we call trusted advisor status. And this is, it's not the pinnacle. There's one more level. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. It's not the pinnacle, but trusted advisor is really one of those critical places that you want to try to get to with your prospects and clients. It does things that those other levels that we've talked about before, tiers 1 through 3, just don't do. And I want to take a couple of minutes and explain what those things are, because I think it's important, and it's understanding, whether you catch this live or whether you catch the recording, that you really, really understand this. When you're a trusted advisor, people are more comfortable making decisions about your recommendations than they are making decisions on a recommendation made from a vendor or a partner or even a subject matter expert, because that word trust means a lot. There's something that has happened in your relationship with them that has created this mutual trust between each other. And as a result, your word means more. It carries more weight. It's more impactful for them. And if you've been through ISM, or even if you haven't been through ISM yet, you know that we talk a lot about impact. Well, impact, creation of impact, exploration of impact, discussing impact with your prospects and your clients is a bridge to create trust. Going to that degree and developing the relationship with the people that you're working with to that degree and establishing that bond by exploring and discussing impact is what creates the trust. And it's what puts you in a position to transition from just being a vendor, a partner, a legitimate subject matter expert, to actually being somebody whose advice is taken and followed. They've perceived trust with you. They have trust with you. They respect you, and they act on your recommendations. So that leads to, and this is how it all ties into how it benefits you as a salesperson. Obviously, if your recommendations are coming from this place of trust, it's much more likely that they're going to move forward. It's also much more likely, and this as it relates to the other areas of selling, that when you see an additional opportunity to add more value, create a bigger impact, maybe upsell a client another product or service or offering and create more of an expanded relationship, it's also more likely that because you're their trusted advisor, that they'll take that advice as well. And the final piece of that puzzle, which is so important that people sometimes forget, but it does play a role in this, is every once in a while, we lose clients. And we don't lose them many times because the trust disappears. Many times we lose them because of some other factor. Maybe it's a financial factor. Maybe it's a competitive influence that you just couldn't change, that they need to literally just take a shot and try something different. And for a while, temporarily, it keeps you on the outside looking in. Well, when you're a trusted advisor, when that trust is established, it's very easy to go back later and kind of reinvigorate that trust, re-engage with that lost client or prospect that you thought you had and lost, and then win them back. And that's why being a trusted advisor is so powerful when it comes to selling. If you really want to crush your sales goals, just become a trusted advisor with everybody you talk to. Figure out how to do it. Might be different with each conversation, but man, that'll get you there. When people listen to what you say and they act on your recommendations more frequently because of that trust, you're going to close more business. You're going to generate more revenue. When they take your recommendation to add additional products or services and upselling things that you show them, that's going to be good for you and them, of course, because of that trust. And finally, when people think that that relationship has been broken, but it really hasn't, it's just been stalled or paused temporarily. If the trust is there and you can go back and reinvigorate that relationship, re-engage them and win them back, that trust is paid dividends once again. So we want to position ourselves as a trusted advisor. That's where, for the average person, where the goal should be set. Now, that does not mean that that is the ultimate pinnacle of the hierarchy. It's a great target. It's a winning target. It's where you'll make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money as a trusted advisor. You never have to go farther than tier 4, but there is a tier 5. Okay. I'm going to get into that in a minute. There is a tier 5. It's where things happen faster. Things happen at an accelerated pace for a variety of different reasons. And it has to do with influence. And we'll talk about that. But for the average person, the person that's probably listening to this recording or catching it live or talks to me about these things, this is where 99.9% of people want to aspire towards. You want to be a trusted advisor, because if you can get there, you're going to be wildly successful. You're going to do a lot of business. You're going to take care of a lot of people. You're going to impact people's lives, and you're going to win along the way yourself. That's where the average person needs to be. That's where the opportunities rest to be successful, getting to that stage. So what is tier 5? What is the pinnacle, the top level status in the hierarchy? It's something that a lot of people are never going to get to. That's okay. I just said you don't need to get there to be wildly successful. But there is a category in this hierarchy that carries more weight and is able to kind of do more. And that category is celebrity. When somebody becomes a celebrity at what it is they do, they are famous because of what they do. They have influence because of what they do. People act on celebrity all the time. We live in the influencer age where people have 1 million followers on Instagram and they launch a new product and they do $20 million overnight because all of their 1 million followers go out there and start buying their product. It's the influencer age. Celebrity can create momentum and movement in this hierarchy above and beyond anything else. Above and beyond anything else that's out there. Celebrity is the pinnacle. And I learned this from one of my mentors. It's absolutely true. Now, that is not to say that you have to go out and aspire to be a celebrity. I don't aspire to be a celebrity. I don't want to be a celebrity. I just want to be good at what I do and help a lot of people. And I'm not saying you have to go out and be a celebrity. Please understand what I'm saying. I'm just saying that of this hierarchy, the level, the tier that is enabled people to do more than anything is when people have attained celebrity status. If you're famous for doing what you do, it's really easy for people to want to work with you. It's really easy for people to be moved by things that you share, things that you say. You've created tremendous influence just by what you've accomplished. And that celebrity status, when used the right way, can move mountains sales-wise. So that's what I call the hierarchy of influence. Now, nowhere in any of there do I say that you have to be in a certain category. And I will tell you that these categories vary from prospect to prospect, client to client, because they are always a work in progress. When you're working with people, you don't walk in to a relationship with somebody, at least, unless you get the celebrity status, you don't walk in immediately as a trusted advisor. And I think you all probably know that. Like, sometimes there is a lot of work that has to be done. Now, there are ways to accelerate that process. There are ways to get to a place where you can get to that trusted advisor status very, very quickly. And before we wrap up and open it up for any questions, if there are any, there are ways to accelerate that process. And I want to give you the biggest way, the way that's the most powerful, and that is to piggyback or tap into other people's trust. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is, referencing warm introductions and referrals from other people, and utilizing that referral, that warm introduction, to enhance your trusted advisor status. Like when somebody introduces you to somebody else and says, oh, meet Bob. Bob has helped my company for many, many years as an executive coach. And I'd like you to meet Bob because I know Bob could be a great benefit to you. Well, Bob goes into that relationship, on the fast track to earning trusted advisor status, because he's already a trusted advisor to the person that makes the warm introduction. And now that person who's introducing them to that third party has passed some of that along to Bob. Now, Bob still has to do the job. Bob still has to earn it in the eyes of that prospect that they've just been introduced to. But Bob has the inside track. Bob has the advantage of that warm introduction. So when it comes to the hierarchy of influence, the ability to be able to move people forward in the sales process and win more business, you want to aspire towards, in the very least, getting to the trusted advisor status, and maybe one day even be a celebrity at what you do because you are just so darn good at it, right? But just getting the trusted advisor status will change your life dramatically. Once you get there, you start figuring out, how do I get there faster? How do I get there faster in my process? How do I get to the trusted advisor status quicker so I can help more people more efficiently and faster? And that's where things like warm introductions and referrals are so powerful. Testimonials, social proof, all the things that kind of get people excited about wanting to work with somebody, credibility tools, get you there faster. So once you have attained trusted advisor status with somebody and you start doing that consistently in your business, not only will you win more business and close more business, you will start getting better at what you do, because you'll start figuring out all the ways to expedite the path to being a trusted advisor. Now, I still personally believe that the best path to do that, the strongest path in how to do that, is what we talk about in Impact Sales Mastery, and that's creating true impact with your prospects, asking them better questions, exploring impact, exploring what really means the most to them, what their aspirations are, what they want for themselves, their business, their employees, really getting to know them and talking through what impacts them is what earns that credibility. Now, I want to just say one more thing about that. It doesn't mean you don't have to deliver. It doesn't mean you don't have to deliver on what you do. That comes with a big assumption. It comes with the big assumption that you're a rock star at what you do. You're good at what you do. So when you have the opportunity to build and earn that trust, you maintain it by delivering superior work, by delivering superior results, by being a professional and doing all the things that maintains that trusted advisor status. So when you look at these things, when you look at this hierarchy, if you go back and watch this recording, you recognize that it's all a work in progress. You know, it's rare that you step into the relationship immediately as a trusted advisor. More than likely, you're coming in somewhere early on in the step, vendor, partner, maybe you're a partner starting out because of a good introduction. You know, maybe you are the subject matter expert because of that introduction, but you're still working towards being that trusted advisor. That's the ultimate goal, to get there, because that's where the money starts flowing. That's where business becomes easier to win, upsell, and win back business. Getting to that level will change everything. So that's what we wanted to cover today on the VIP call. I wanted to open things up, see if there are any questions on this or any other topics. Are there any questions out there that I can answer on today's VIP?
Hi.
Hey, Susie, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. All right. So I have always wrestled with the concept of charging my prospects even for the introductory call. Because I know people that I think, according to your presentation just now, they're in a higher tier than I am.
Sure.
And so they are charging people a lot of money. My avatar, I'm only talking about prospects that are my avatar.
Sure.
Charging them a lot of money just to get on the phone with me. Because inevitably, when we get on the phone, even though we're exploring the impact that it will have on their lives, they're getting information from me about how to improve their situation. I mean, inevitably that comes out in a conversation. Like, I give them some of my expertise through that introductory conversation.
Sure.
So I've always wrestled with, like, can I charge them for that phone call and then, I don't know, maybe subtract that, like a down payment, subtract that if they just from the total cost of the package, if they decide to sign up, that kind of thing. But it's always kind of bothered me that I am giving away helpful information to them, sometimes by specifically reviewing the specifics on their current resume and how it could improve. And I'm just wondering if how I can get to that and come across still as a subject matter expert and a trusted advisor.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, I think the short answer is yes, you can do it. Number one, I think you need to break this out into two different ways. Yes, you can do that. If you feel that that's something that you want to do, that you think it would be important to do to gauge people's commitment to whether they're serious, to cover yourself for the time vested in the calls, however you rationalize it, the answer is yes, you can do it. Now, that's the first part, the acknowledgement that yes, I can do it, right? The second part is the functionality of how I do it, how I may rationalize it to somebody else or whatever, right? So I think I think it's a great idea what you described about maybe using that as an offset against future services. Like if you say, you know, I typically charge X for my consultation, but I will apply the consultation fee against any contract on any service that you might engage me for. Perfectly fine doing that. I think there's a lot of people that do that. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when your time is valuable, right? So I think there's nothing wrong with doing that, Susie. I think that's a great idea. Now, how you position it is really going to depend on how you perceive it and less how other people perceive it. Now, and this is a little backwards because sometimes we talk it's all about what they think, which is true. But in this case, they don't know what to think yet. They don't know you well enough to know what to think. So it really is more important what you think about it and how you feel about it. And I'll just give you some great examples, right? You could go to the little corner mom and pop restaurant and order a steak. And that steak might be $9 in this tiny little restaurant, little hole in the wall spot, right? And somebody's perception of that $9 steak is, oh, it's a $9 steak. It can't be that great, right? Or you could go to Morton's or Ruth Chris Steakhouse and spend $40 for a really, really good steak. And it's all in the perception. Some people may look at it as a meal. Some people may look at it as an experience. Some people may look at it as not that important. And it's all about just getting it done. I'll eat something cheap. I don't care. Other people will be like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So when you're interacting with people, Susie, and you're talking to people about specifically what it is you do and the value that you put on it, your perception needs to be rooted in the value you deliver so you can confidently ask them for that consultation fee. If you know you're delivering a service that's worth tens of thousands of dollars to the people that utilize it, which it is, because the difference between what they may end up with in their job versus what they may get as a result of working with you could be tens of thousands of dollars and a whole lot of misery, right? Yeah, they could be miserable in the wrong job, or they could get the right job that they love, that they feel fulfilled, and that might feel priceless to them. So the answer is, are you comfortable enough putting a price tag on your time and sticking to your guns and saying, I'm happy to do the consultation. It's this base price. And by the way, if you choose to work with me, I credit that back immediately on whatever service you work with me on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I'm just constantly grappling with it. I thought it would be a differentiator between me and other coaches, because I can't tell you how many of my colleagues are like, what do you mean? Not to me, but to their, when they find out that another coach has charged for the initial consultation, they're like, are you crazy? You can't charge these people for initial consultation. That's crazy. That's unfair. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
So as many people have suggested that it could be done, others have said, no, that's not fair. You're just talking to the prospect, that you shouldn't be doing that. But I always thought maybe it might be a differentiator. Like they would then be attracted to me, like, oh, she has something to do, or
Sure.
she has something to tell me. She must be worth something if she's charging for it.
Yeah. And all things being equal,
Grappling with it.
Susie, you know, you delivering superior service like you always do, it really is less about what they think and more about how you feel about it. Because if you feel that it's the right thing to do, it is.
I really want to do it.
And here's the other thing. You know, what is worse? Maybe a couple of people don't like it versus other people being intrigued enough that they feel it's worth it. Like I think in this day and age, especially, no matter what you do, you alienate some people, right? No matter what you do. Like if you don't charge for it, somebody goes, well, why doesn't she charge for that? Like, I don't get it. Like, and then there's always people that love free things, but then don't take action. So I think there's a lot of upside to doing it. And somebody listening to this, you know, could take this advice as well. There's absolutely upside to it, because you will immediately figure out if that person's serious. If they're willing to sign on, pay that consultation fee, you'll know right away if they're really serious. You know, the skin is in the game. Now, whether or not they do anything else would be up to them. But I think there's plenty of reasons why you should try to go and try to do that. I think there's a lot of upside. What it's really going to come down to, Susie, is going to be your confidence level with doing it.
Right. Okay.
And
Thank
that's
you.
ultimately it. And I've been in this situation before, and there's been times when I've charged for consultations, and there's been times when I haven't. I like the idea um of making it easy for people to talk to me about our services. Now the problem is that that exposes you to a lot of people that waste your time. Good people, but if you're free, that's sometimes how people perceive you. you know, and I'll tell you, I've gone back and forth in this myself. And, there was a time, maybe about a year and a half ago where I know I had a conversation with somebody and there was no fee involved. And just the advice that I gave that person on that conversation, I know for a fact, because they shared this with me later, that it made them over $100,000. And they never contracted with me yet. They haven't done any business with me yet, but I know that direction, it wasn't even a thought, it was direction. You need to do this. Here's why. This is what's going to happen. They made $100,000 from it. Now, in that example, I was kicking myself wondering, why didn't I charge them for that consultation? So yeah, I think if you can, you should. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's up to each individual person how they want to approach it. You cast a wider net when it's free. You really cast a very specific target range when you charge, and that can work to your advantage. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it, Susie.
Thank you. Yeah, I also think it matters how much I would charge initially.
Of course.
Well, because like I'm not going to charge $50.
Yeah. No, of course. But that's all
So,
relative. And anybody listening or anybody that's in this situation, that's all relative to the value exchange.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you're exchanging something for them that's tens of thousands of dollars or more, or immeasurable if it comes to them being put into a position that they're happier about, like how do you quantify happiness, right? I mean, it's all a matter of what's more important to them, and people really respond to, or take action as a result of a couple of specific things, certain human emotions. There's need, there's greed, there's, you know, anger. There's certain things that make people do things, good or bad, right? Well, when that happens, you know, whatever position you're in, whether they're paying you for that time as a consultant or whether it's a free engagement, um, if you're enacting some type of change, if they're taking action because of what you're giving with them, absolutely it's worth it. And my argument would be that you go into those interactions perceived at a higher level if you do charge for them. Like, I think they will look at you and give you a higher status if you do charge. Okay. Are there any other questions that I can answer? Anything sales related, whether was on today's topic of the hierarchy or whether it is on some other topic? Okay. If nobody else has anything, I have one question that I wanted to answer. I got a question that came in uh, via messenger from somebody yesterday. It was something that I don't get asked this question a lot, but it was interesting because of, I know this person personally. We've never done business, but they asked me a very specific sales question, and it had to do with scripting. It had to do with, when you go onto these calls, whether they're phone calls or whether you go into like a Zoom call, do you script what it is that you're going to say? And, I answer this a lot of different ways, but yesterday, the way I answered this question was, I script almost everything. Now, I script almost everything to the point that it doesn't come off as scripted is the second part of that statement. And it's really, really important because, people will, people will perceive things a lot of different ways. And sometimes people have this negative feeling about scripting, whether it's a call script, whether it's a meeting script or agenda, whether it's whatever. They think scripting is wrong, that it takes away the organic flow of the session, or however they want to define it. And I don't disagree with that, but I think when it comes to the individual person, the average person, the majority of people, the average person will feel better and more confident if they have scripted something out and they feel more prepared for whatever the engagement is. So my answer was less about the fact that you do a script, more about the fact that you feel better prepared, more comfortable, ready for anything. I am a big believer in role plays. In my corporate days, when I would do team selling and we would go into accounts, whether they were small or large accounts, I would insist on a little mini role play. So if there were multiple people involved in the meeting, like everybody knew their role. Everybody knew what they were supposed to be saying or doing or covering. There was complete clarity into it. So when it comes to scripting, whether you're by yourself, whether you're on a team, I'm not saying avoid it to avoid or to maintain the organic flow. What I'm saying is create your organic flow because you're better prepared, because you've scripted things to the point that you just know it inside and out. And people ask me this all the time, how much I prepare for certain things versus other things. If I'm going to do a speaking event, I am completely scripted, but scripted in a way that I have it down, memorized, and comfortable that I can flow through it. If I'm doing an online event, I have worked through everything that I want to say. I may use an outline, I may use bullet points, I may use different things, but I have worked through what I want to say completely. And I just think that there's comfort in that. Now, I know some people, I know a lot of people will push back and say, I don't want to invest the time in doing that. Okay. A lot of people come off as disorganized. A lot of people come off as not understanding their product or service. Because here's what people hear. And this is my whole topic. And this is what I got across to my friend yesterday. Here's what people hear. When you aren't scripted, when you aren't prepared, when you aren't really, really comfortable with your responses and they don't flow, even if you know your business, if it sounds broken, if it sounds altered, if it sounds awkward, people perceive that as you not knowing your business as well as you probably do. And I just believe that, we're in the business of trying to win as much business as we can. So we go into those things prepared. We go into those things knowing what we're going to say. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be word for word, but it flows to the point that it doesn't sound awkward or broken. Like, and you've all probably experienced this. You get on a call with somebody and it's this and that, and everything's broken or chopped. It seems disorganized. It seems unprofessional. It seems like they don't understand their business. Now, I'm not in any way diminishing people get nervous, and I get nervous, right? That stuff all happens. That's real. I'm talking above and beyond normal levels of just being nervous. I'm talking about problems where people have the wrong perception. So my short answer, and this is just my contribution to the Q&A, is yes, script to the point that it doesn't sound like a script to the point that the only person that ever knows there was a script was you. Script to the point that you sound like you know your business inside and out, upside and down. You just have it down because you went through it so well that it never comes off as awkward. That's where you want to go with your script. Now, I know a lot of people won't do that type of work. And I think it'll always hold them back. I think having something is better than nothing. Being partially scripted is better than having nothing. Even if you have to write it down and read it because you haven't memorized it, that's better than nothing. But just understand, if you don't have it down, that other person's perception or perspective Could be that you're disorganized, could be that you don't know your business. So if your script sounds like a script, it's not going to help you. If your script comes off as unscripted, that's what you want to shoot for. Okay, so before we wrap up, are there any other questions that I can answer for anybody? Anything we can cover before we wrap up? Okay, quiet bunch today. Well, this has been the Impact Sales Tribe VIP call. I encourage you, if you didn't get to this call live today and you're catching the recording, catch us next Thursday for next week's VIP call. Got something really special coming next week. You don't want to miss it. This is Joe Beck with the Sales Activist, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.